This is Rev'd Up with Bill McKinney, a smarter conversation about cars, the auto industry, and what drivers really need to know. From industry trends and buyer insights to technology, safety, and what's coming next on the road, you're getting real perspective from inside the business without the sales pitch. Rev'd Up with Bill McKinney starts now.
Good morning, Tallahassee. Welcome. This is Rev'd Up with Bill McKinney, and we are back for our first show, trying to get to know you guys a little bit, really have you guys get to know us. I'm here with my good friend Dale Brown.
How you doing?
Fantastic. Do you know why you're here?
Yeah. We're going to kind of talk a little bit about some of the changes that are coming in our industry a little bit of changes to Tallahassee Ford. Really the changes that have already happened at Tallahassee Ford.
Yes. So, one of the things that occurred to me was while we're starting out this new year in 2026, I had a couple folks ask me some questions that caught me a little bit off guard. And I thought, man, they're probably not the only people that are either thinking that or have, just had that on their mind.
Yeah.
And, I want to make sure that I got my mind open to those things. If it's important to you guys, it's important to me. So, been over 4 years now, that I came in, and then after that got some ownership in the dealership, and it's kind of been a plan for my partner and I that's what's a lot of this conversation is. My business partner is retired, and he's left the building, and what does that mean for Tallahassee Ford? And I think that was what you and I were talking about, and I wanted to invite that conversation because I guess I didn't give it the weight that it should. So I wanted you, and I picked you, Dale, because when I got here, I really didn't know anybody other than my business partner. And I had to try to get a feel for Tallahassee. And what I recognized right away is it's less of a city and more of a town. And I get that, when you're doing that, friends and family members, there's a lot of connection there. There's a lot of fabric if you allow it to be. That's right. And so that's why I've always appreciated from the moment that we met, the way that you've kind of, hey, Bill, this is Tallahassee.
Yeah.
This is that, you know what I mean? That we don't necessarily do Dan the Rock's full speed ahead here.
You're not in Miami anymore, right?
No. There's goods and bads, you know what I mean? It's some different food. I'm not getting ham croquettes at the gas station window, you know what I mean? But Tallahassee does have amazing food. But nevertheless, I wanted to give the mic to you. And I didn't want to direct your questions, Dale. I want you to ask me what's on your heart, because I've felt very often that you represented a core of the crew in the store, and a core of our consumers out there in the marketplace that that you've been here, you grew up with them.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize there'd be so many thoughts. I thought Bob and I really kind of did this thing in our way. But in the absence of sharing that with folks, maybe they don't know. So let me stop talking, because I'll burn the mic up. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, a little bit about me, and you already know this, but I'm 62 years old, grew up in Monticello, but was born here in Tallahassee at Tallahassee Memorial. Thankfully, that's the only time I've had to visit Tallahassee Memorial when I was born. But I worked in the golf business. I was a golf professional. So I was constantly out in the public. And when Bob Hudson came to me, who was a social member of mine, and he said, hey, I may have something that would appeal to you. And my first reaction kind of was like, oh gosh, I hope it's not in the car business, because I can't think of anything I hate worse than that. But really what he hired me for, and what really I'm doing at the dealership, is I've always been the people side of things. And the business that I created is really a reflection of kind of what you changed when you came here. And we're very mobile. And most of the cars that I sold in the first year, and that was 11 years ago, I was going to customers' offices with a truck that they already bought, and they were changing every couple of years. And we would sign paperwork right there, and they never stepped foot in the dealership. And I just found there was a lot of people like me and like that customer that wanted the ability for us to do the legwork for them. And then Ford made pickup and delivery, made us do the legwork for them. Then there was all our mobile service vans, and that again made the customer more, it valued their time more. And I think that's probably the thing that has really, what I've seen in the changes that you've made, is how convenient it is for the customer. the days of coming into the dealership and sitting there waiting for an oil change, you don't have to do it that way. It's okay if you do. We like for you to come in. We like to say hello, but it's okay if you don't want to do that. We can come to you. And people are surprised by that. And they're surprised that we do things other than Ford vehicles too. People need to know that. You don't have to be a Tallahassee Ford customer to call and schedule an oil change.
Nope.
We'll come to your house or business and do it.
Weed eaters to Peterbilts. We fix them all. It's all good.
And I think I don't know anybody else in Tallahassee that's doing that.
At the end of the day, and I think I try to always come back to that and say in our industry, you have to have a servant's heart.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because when you do, then you understand the changes that are out there. You're open to the changes out there because the public is the one that really writes the retail plan.
Mm-hmm. And when we were driving here today, we had both an employee and a customer that you talked to, and it was both about the change that was happening at Tallahassee Ford.
Mm-hmm.
And the simple answer is there are no changes. Those changes have already been done. But the customer doesn't know that, and our employee didn't really know that.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a certain amount of transition that happens, but really it's more in the customer's mind. There is really no transition. Everything's already has changed over the last 4 years that you've been there. I think to the better too. I think we're much more efficient. Customers have more options, but there's still a little bit of anxiety, like, oh my gosh, one of the owners has retired, and is that going to affect the way my business is done? So, and the answer is no.
No. Well, the earth-shattering changes have been done over the past 4 years. The idea was with Bob and I that we kind of feather through the changes that are there so that when the time came, because Bob 100% was in control of when he retired, whether it was last year, this year, or if he wanted to continue to stay on. But what his part in staying on was making sure that maybe the loose ends, the detail, everything was tidy, the handoff was fluid and smooth for both our guests, our consumers, but also for the staff. I mean, we're not a small store, if you will. I say small because I continue to think in terms of the stores in Miami that were you're huge.
Yeah.
But we have 132 employees, so we're not necessarily small. And while it may seem like I'm in tune with things, and I try to be, the reality is there are, and I found this out too. I've got a business card from this dealership. I got a few.
Yeah.
One says used car director.
Yeah.
One says general sales manager.
Yeah.
One says general manager.
Oh.
And this other one, I don't know if this is vice president or partner, something to that effect on there. And I look back now and I'm thinking about that. And I always had such a good ear to the ground on things that happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think once you cross over that GSM spot, that doesn't make it to your ear. A lot of stuff is not in view anymore. And some of it can be things you need to know, and some of it can be things that just aren't your business. And what I mean by that is when folks have questions, and that happened, as I was sharing with you, I had a long-term employee, and like, well, what happens next? Nothing.
Yeah.
We just keep maturing and kind of, we keep maturing together as a team and getting better and finding our rhythm. And that's the goal is there these last 4 years. And really, 4 years ago is when the change was made.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And quite honestly, this group right here was one of the ones that was the catalyst. I think, some guy called us out online and you jumped in there and tried to butter it up as best you can. Because if I got in there with my longest run-on sentence of the world, nobody would have understood it. But at the end of the day, it put a pretty bold light on some things that we needed to attack. Now, we had a plan, but you know how it is. Sometimes you bust up that honey hole, people get a little bit cranky.
That's right.
Big changes? No. They're done. Now we just keep getting better together.
Right.
So we're going to take a break and we're going to come back in just a minute. Rev'd Up with Bill McKinney and my friend Dale, and have Dale ask me some more questions that maybe might be on your mind. We're your local Ford dealer, where you come, whether you want sales or service, or whether you just want to stop by and have a good old cup of coffee. But we'll see you guys in a few minutes and we'll keep the conversation going.
You're listening to Rev'd Up with Bill McKinney. Insight, experience, and straight talk from inside the auto industry.
Dale.
Yes.
What else is on your mind? You got that pulse to the ground, both store and community. What, is there anything I can answer? You think?
Sure. I think listening to customers, one of the things with the events that we sponsor, we're out in the community a lot. Mm-hmm. And most of the time, those are where you get the best questions. Mm-hmm. When people come in a car dealership, to a certain degree, especially if their car's not working correctly, or maybe they're just coming in for an oil change. They want to get in and out as fast as they can with the least amount of money spent. They're not there to dilly-dally around. So the questions that you get at some of these events off site are really the best ones. And the one I hear based on our, some of our commercials that we run is we don't have a finance office. Mm-hmm. And most people, when they hear that, they don't know what that means because, hey, I don't have the money to pay for a $50,000 car. I'm going to have to finance this. Mm-hmm. And what do you mean you don't have a finance office? So their mind sort of runs with that, with like, well, I can't go there. They don't have a finance office. But really, we kind of do. So maybe you could explain a little bit about kind of the finance professionals we have there, but also the ability for that person to deal directly with the salesperson. Correct. All the way from front to back. And maybe that's a little bit of we need to clarify how that works.
Absolutely. And I'll try to be relatively quick about it. So the vast majority of the CSI issues that you see tend to drive from folks experience in the finance office. And the commonality is it took too long to get done and then everything changed. COVID allowed us to make some changes and we ran the ball out on that. What I realized was you can't abandon the finance office in its entirety for a couple of reasons. One, there's a customer service that's needed. Two, the attention to detail. When I look back 4 years ago when we started trying it to where we are now, it's hard at a big store to have 4 or 5 well-versed business managers that are on top of their business and attention to detail. And that's not just like making money. That's like getting your car registered and titled properly. Right. Making sure that the tag is right, the registration, because we do this stuff live through these companies now. The skill set's different and it's not just something you click on and go. Right. And so what I wanted to do was give the consumer an opportunity. If you're that person that you got your ducks in a row, you can run your whole deal with the salesman. In fact, you can have him just go get your keys. Yes. You can click your way through it. It is to your level of comfort. If you want a Carvana it, click, click, click. Please get me that car. Mm-hmm. I'm ready for you to fill that one up. I know I got gold-plated credit because the banks call me. You know what I mean? Right. Or, hey, I got divorced. It's divorce, death, or illness, the 3 of those. Hey, I had some challenges 2 or 3 years ago. Those are the ones that you need maybe some personal attention to because not all challenges in the credit world are the same. Mm-hmm. And that's where the real need for a true finance professional comes into play. But now you look at it. Who is the most versed finance professional that we have? Val. Yeah. She's a school teacher.
Yeah. Yeah. She's good.
She's a school teacher by profession. Yeah. So she knows how to take a challenge out of a labor of love, right? Because we know they're not paying them what they should be making. That's right. Not trying to start a firestorm, but I mean, it is what it is.
Very true. And I was an education major.
Okay, so, there you go. And it's definitely got to be a labor of love.
Oh, yeah.
My cousin Jenny was a teacher for 15 minutes when them kids bit her on the back of the leg. She was a therapist of some sort next.
Yeah. Yeah. I know what you mean.
She jumped up quick.
I know what you mean.
So Val, that bucks the trend. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? She's a teacher. And I wanted somebody that had that attention to detail to make sure that her customers, that they had the attentiveness that was needed to facilitate it properly.
It's just answering questions. The customer is going to tell you, how long they keep their car. If they're buying an SUV and they're planning on keeping this because little Johnny and little Sarah are 2 years old, Val can be very instrumental in getting them the right type of extended warranty, for instance. If they're planning on keeping this 10 years old, for 10 years, they need to have some coverage. That's 3 years, 36 comes up pretty quick.
Yes. That's why I wanted to have a professional in there. These cars are complicated. The repairs are expensive. We see them a lot now when it's warranty that's covering it. Thank God. I can only imagine what some of those bills, I can imagine how I would feel if I was presented some of those bills. And they're just not on your day to day, right? They're not saying, I'm just going to extra $6,000 today.
That's right.
You know what I mean? $6,001 cup of coffee. Yeah. We don't charge for coffee, but seriously, I wanted to have a professional that could cover the details with somebody, but still have a servant's heart and not have every action that they take be marred in greed. Mm-hmm. And I don't say that with any disrespect to the industry, but I wouldn't be being fair if I didn't have that conversation. Right. And that's the part where if you talk to somebody. And like me, for example, if I was to get a car, I'm not going to have a car probably outside of its warranty. Don't bother me with extended warranty. It's just not my thing.
That's right.
Now, my oldest brother, Dennis, that dude needs to buy a warranty. I mean, he has this thing where he just wants to make sure he gets everything out of the car. I mean, everything. Dennis, it's not safe
Yeah.
That mean, you got kids.
He hangs on to them for a while.
He hangs on to them. He gets it all.
That's not you.
No. Dennis needs a warranty. He's going to use it.
I'm somewhere in between.
But that's where the conversations, and that's what I wanted to do, was get away from that old school. We moved you across the dealership, made you wait an hour to put you in the finance office where it kind of wore you down. Yeah. And at some point, you're just like, dude, just give it to me. I'll sign it. I'll cancel the crap on my truck on the way home. Well, tell me that hasn't happened.
Absolutely. And when we made that change, and now essentially the salesperson does that, you won't believe how much time that takes away, because most of the time was getting up from the salesperson's desk and walking to the finance office, waiting for the finance person to get finished with the previous person. So you're there in the waiting room waiting on that person. In the meantime, you're looking at the watch and it's time to cook dinner and the kids got to be picked up from school and blah, blah, blah. It just takes a lot of time when you're moving from place to place. So all that got cut out.
You're looking at that also, you look at it from the customer standpoint, and I also look at it from the salesman's standpoint. I remember what it was like to be a salesman. I had a great relationship with my customer, and then I had to hand them off. And I had absolutely, not only did I not have control over what happened next to my customer, that I wanted to protect and make sure they stayed my customer.
That's right.
And a lot of stores, you weren't even allowed to ask detailed questions. You get, you'd catch a verbal smackdown for that, of some variation. I mean, business I grew up in was different. I was the kid. Yeah. I having to come to grips with I'm no longer the kid.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah. But I do get that. And I didn't know how to sell when I got into the industry. I sold a lot of vehicles because I knew everybody. I had a lot of friends. Yeah. And they were either my friends that were buying or their parents. So, I mean, when they'd walk in the dealership, oh, Billy, you know what I mean? Yeah. And they'd walk right past the guy they bought three cars from. That was a stir up there. So my sales didn't come out of an abundance of skill set or closing ability or anything like that. I just knew these people forever. So the harshest my negotiation is Billy McKinney, if you don't give me a good deal, I'm going to call Arthur.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Yeah. That was worse than that. We didn't have Google, but we had art. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And he wasn't going to say much, but the look on his face was going to crush you in disappointment.
Right. So, well, when I started at Tallahassee Ford, I knew zero about the car business, nothing. But I had been out in the community for 28 years in the golf business, and I knew all the people in Tallahassee. And, really the people business is what I still do. And the trust that I built up was really from the previous 28 years. So when people, it wasn't always somebody that I was calling and say, hey, do you want to buy a car? Do you want to buy a car? Do you want to buy a car? They were calling me and they were saying, Dale, hey, my son's going off to college and the truck that he's been driving to Leon High School is not going to make it. Can you help me? And that's kind of what I hope we all are doing up there, really, is that's the relationship, is people are calling us to help solve a problem.
That is the only thing that will keep us here in the future.
Sure.
If we are not those people, I do believe our days are numbered. They can transact around us. I'll be the first to tell you, if we don't figure it out and pull it off, I'll be the first dealer to give them a way to transact around it.
Yeah.
I've tried it, and we can have an entire discussion about that because we experienced it. But I gave an absolute opportunity for consumers to transact entirely around the salesperson online. And at the end of the day, when you take the human component and the servant's heart out, the customer does pay the price. The key is getting that right person to invest those qualities in, and then they give the right service to your guests. So, folks, we'll be right back. This is Bill McKinney and Dale Brown on Rev'd Up with Bill McKinney. We'll see you in a few minutes. We'll keep the conversation going. Please keep in mind that this show is directed by your questions. If it's important to you, it's important to us, and I'd love to hear it. So please chime in, shoot us over some questions, give us a list of things to keep going on. We want to demystify buying a car. I don't want it to be hard. We really do want to make it easy. See you guys in a few.
All gas and no brakes. Rev'd Up with Bill McKinney. We'll be right back after this short break. You're listening to Rev'd Up with Bill McKinney, presented by Tallahassee Ford.
We are going to segue into everyone's favorite subject, recalls.
Oh my goodness, recalls. How many calls do we get every week? Man, I got to get my car in. I got to get my car in. I got this notification. It came through my Ford Pass app. I got a letter in the mail. something's going on wrong with my car. I've got to get this in like right away.
I don't even know the amount of calls, but I would tell you this, that I'm glad we're getting the calls because it takes conversation.
Yep.
Recalls, they're a necessary evil, right? Thank goodness the manufacturer is recognizing something that they need to correct and taking the responsibility. That's great. The next part of it is, what do you do? Is it a recall? Is it an advance notice?
Yeah. Is
it a recall with no parts availability?
Yep.
Is it a true safety recall where I shouldn't drive my car? Is it a hindrance, annoyance? Is it simply annoyance because I've gotten too many of the letters and I don't care and I'm that guy that's actually never going to bring my car in for a recall? Right. Unless the wheel falls off and stops me from driving,
right?
I got things to do.
I got two on my Bronco now, and neither one of them have a fix yet.
That's it.
But there's nothing that affects the drivability of the car. And sometimes it's a visual inspection, something that our technicians do on our tech vans, and saves the customer from coming in. So.
Yes, I think that's certainly something worth mentioning. So a lot of the times the recalls may say, 100% of these cars have this recall, but not 100% of that batch of cars is going to need a fix. 100% will have to be inspected.
Yeah.
And through that, there'll be a smaller percentage that actually need the part replaced. And so that's a two-step. And what we try to do on that one is we'll have our mobile service comb through where we can go to the customer and do the inspection, because that's quick and easy. It doesn't typically require a lot. Some can require them to do some disassembly, but for the most part, the inspection is a pretty quick process, and it lets us know we need to get this part ordered for this car and do this, or, hey, it's been checked, you're good to go, your car's clean, blah, blah, blah. Now, we're not going to dismiss one that needs a recall for a lot of reasons. One, the level of training and certifications that goes into technicians. I don't know any technician that's just going to just blind box something to get it off of his desk. Two, they get paid to fix cars.
Sure.
They get paid to fix cars. They are not paid to send you away. So if there's something under that recall that needs to be done and they can do it, they are going to do it. It's not specific to manufacturer. We've all got them. I mean, we have more than Ford. I mean, we've got 4 Toyota stores, 2 Hyundai stores, Kia store, Mercedes store.
In our group.
Operating in multiple states. So I'm fairly well versed with many of the different manufacturers that are out there. I live and operate here in Tallahassee, and this is my home. And this is the store where I'm not the operating partner. But as a small group of partners, we have, 9 dealerships in 2 states and multi-franchise. So we are constantly together every month, and then quarterly face-to-face we get together. And we have lengthy discussions on what's going on in the marketplace through all of the different manufacturers. So it keeps us up to speed on it.
There does seem to be just a ton of recalls. And I know customers get annoyed by it. Like you said, we need to have the conversation right away to see if we can take some of the burden off the customer. They may not even have to come to us.
Right.
And if they do, then it's can be a very simple, procedure. And we can get them in and out of there.
I want to qualify that a little bit that you're talking about, because something popped up this morning that happened. A lady rolled in a Lincoln Navigator. We're no longer a Lincoln dealer. Right. We sold the franchise. They make some beautiful cars. We made the decision. We have no intention on building a new Lincoln building.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I met a customer, actually was a customer of James McRae, and the guy was an absolute gentleman. And he said, "Hey man, I love the whole concept that you guys got going on where you can streamline the process. And I love my Lincoln, but I still didn't get a Lincoln delivery." And he's right. A true Lincoln store will have a different delivery that, truthfully, if they do what they're supposed to do, that customer deserves. Now they're and that's where we were. We were delivering Lincoln $100,000 Lincoln Navigators the same way we were delivering an Edge or an Escape. Neither one of those are in the line anymore, but nevertheless, it was the same delivery, and the only variance in the quality of that was going to be the individual. That's not fair for Lincoln. Okay. And then the other side of it was I really wanted to get really, really good at Ford. And sometimes when you're kind of trying to serve two, that makes it more difficult, to say the least. And so we made that decision, right? Now you skip ahead. Here we are. The lady that was in service hadn't been to our store in 5 years. And she got a recall. Her parts are not on our radar.
Right.
She's no longer in our ecosystem, if you will, as a current customer.
Right.
So that parts, we have now worked with Ford, where Ford will autofill our parts based off of the recalls in our area, based off of the vehicles that are connected through connected services.
Yeah.
She's none of those to us. So we're completely blind. And that's one of those things that was a huge eye opener when I got here. She's not the only one.
Yeah.
When my oldest son, Michael, went to school in Tampa, when he went to college in Tampa, he didn't buy his car in Tampa. I got him his car from my store in Miami and gave it to him. So when he needed a repair on that car, it was not on their radar. I never really thought about that. But then, I come up here and I realized, man, we got Florida State, we got FAMU, we got TCC, we got all the major state head offices for fleet vehicles. None of those cars are on our radar. They didn't buy them from us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So what I'm trying to do now is, you see those QRs everywhere, is get those vehicles in there so I can get those parts on our radar and start servicing them. That's just why we send mobile out to them to re-engage them and make them part of Tallahassee Ford ecosystem, if you will. And the more we do of that, the more that parts order fulfillment gets better and better and better and better. The exposure would be for me, right? They ordered parts for somebody that never showed up. It's a part. I've got parts managers. If it sits there and it gets stale, he can find a home for it. Or worst case scenario, we got to, wholesale it out. But I'd rather have the part and not need it than need it and not have it, because then that creates a unpleasant conversation for our customers. So I guess that's to the point of, be careful when you start skipping around service departments. And I'm going to qualify that real quickly. You have a bad experience. You're going to have one. It's going to happen at some point under the best circumstances in the world. I've seen the best places stub their toe. Try your best as a consumer. If I had to give you advice, whether it's with me or whether it's with a dealer that's not me, try your best to have a relationship with someone in that service department and keep your vehicle in and out of their ecosystem so that your parts that are needed for your recalls pop up, because the technology that is unfolding, I don't even have a word to say how quickly it's unfolding. It's unbelievably rapid. Be part of that. Doesn't mean you're obligated to do anything with them. It simply means your options are better. We were talking about earlier about having Crohn's disease. If I don't have a good experience, I've hopped around from doctor to doctor. I put myself at a disadvantage when I got bent out of shape. And so I'm not going back to that guy. Yeah. I'm not doing that, because now I had to start all over. That guy doesn't know me. He's having to understand what I'm saying through a conversation rather than actually through the time of treatment. Your car is the same. It's just, it's not a person, but you're treating it. You're fixing it. You're diagnosing it. It's complicated. It's Murphy's Law is entering into it, right? What you said it was doing when it was bothering you is all of a sudden not doing it when it's at the dealership.
That's right.
It happens all the time. But when you have a actual relationship with somebody at the dealership, and I tell you, hey, Dale, next time it does that, record it, send it to me. And by the way, if you can, drive it straight in and don't turn it off.
Right.
Because when you turn the Ford off after 5 minutes, it resets the computer and it clears the code. Leave it running. Walk right in and grab me so we can at least capture it. And so those things happen when you have a relationship, right?
Yeah.
In the absence of it, those conversations don't happen. What happens is if you allow the engagement to be bad, both on the consumer's part and on the staff part, what happens is there becomes this fear and apprehension to continue the conversation going. I assure you nothing good happens from that.
That's right.
You go home empty-handed, the problem's not resolved, your advisor doesn't feel like they accomplished anything, and they may just not want to even answer the next phone. They're human.
That's right.
Have a relationship. I can't encourage that strongly enough.
I think honestly, that's really the success. I mean, this is our 100-year anniversary at Tallahassee Ford. 100 years. If we don't have strong relationships with the community, we can be selling, thimbles instead of cars. It doesn't matter. So the strong relationships that you were just talking about, having a relationship with somebody in your service department or in your sales department, person that you can call. I can just tell you about my customers. Most of them I've known a lot longer than I've been at Tallahassee Ford. So when they call me, they're not sometimes calling to get a new car from somebody. They're saying, hey, I need an oil change. Hey, I need, my car just had a lady, our caterer, they did our catering party the other day. Her car stalled out on her on the 20-degree morning. Her battery just died on her. I called the mobile people. We had a mobile tech person within 3 minutes of her location. They came straight to her before she could almost hang up the phone with me and got her a jump, tested her battery. She drove it straight to us. We had to check her battery over, replaced her battery for her, and within an hour, she was fine.
That is an amazing service directly tied to connected services. Folks, we're going to be right back and wrap it up. I'm going to talk a little bit about the weathered logo and connected services, and we'll bring this thing to an end for the day. This is Bill McKinney on Rev'd Up with Bill McKinney and my friend Dale Brown. See you all in a few.
Rev'd Up with Bill McKinney is presented by Tallahassee Ford, proud to support smarter conversations for local drivers. You're listening to Rev'd Up with Bill McKinney, presented by Tallahassee Ford.
Hey, Tallahassee, welcome back. It's Rev'd Up with Bill McKinney and my friend
Dale Brown.
We are back. We're going to talk about a couple of things and wrap up the show. One of them, when we left off, was talking about recalls, services just in general that aren't going to be recalls, but how they tie into, particularly with Ford, and I'm sure all the manufacturers have it. So if it's not Ford, again, going back to relationships, whether it be your salesperson, your service associate, have that relationship where you can find out, do you want to take part in it and what will it do for you? Is there a benefit, right? What's in it for me? And one other thing that I'll talk about, I'm going to talk about that logo right there, that weathered logo. It means so much because it was profound when it hit me when I saw it. I think and you said Forrest had Googled it.
Yeah, my son. We were talking about 100 years, and that Tallahassee Ford was going to have a 100-year anniversary this year, which was kind of weird because the country's got 250 years and Tallahassee Ford's 100. But I asked my son, I said, hey, because I was driving, I said, Google, what is the percentage of businesses in the United States that last 100 years? And the answer was 0.05%.
How much?
That blew my mind. I blew my mind. And I think about that, about how fortunate I am to work in a business that's kind of part of the Tallahassee community. And I hope that the Tallahassee community can see the type of relationships we have with them. I think they do. I'm the community relations manager, so I get the surveys that come back, both on sales and service. And of course, they're bad experiences. Of course, we mess things up. Of course, we take responsibility when we do. But a high percentage of them are people that call out a service advisor by name. Carl was so great. James was so great. Brendan was so great. Please tell him how fortunate, or how helpful he was. Occasionally, yes, we're going to have a follow-up saying, I've been trying to reach so-and-so. Can you make sure that he gets this? And I usually reply back and copy the advisor on it. But yeah, it's the relationship that you have with the people. The car obviously is great. That's one thing that we don't have to do. We don't have to apologize for a Ford product, So if you don't mess up the relationship part of it, and you have honest conversations with people, and they learn to trust you, they can call you when they need an oil change or a new battery or a daughter that's going to college and needs a car. They're going to call you to help solve that issue.
Biggest compliment that I get is not a compliment, and the folks don't know it. I have so many friends whose children are going to school up here.
Yeah.
And when they call me, from various places in Florida that we know each other from, and they just call to salt the ground and say, hey, Bill, my daughter's going to school up there. You care if I give her your number? That is that's
big responsibility.
Compliment. That's the best compliment, is that they know I'll take care of them.
Absolutely.
As if they were my own. And so those things are important, and those things that they're looked at, in detail by everyone. Someone we would dismiss for what they are, but
that reminds me of a quick conversation. We had a customer that emailed us that very thing, same thing. His daughter had a Ford product. She was, I think, at Florida State, and they lived in South Florida, and she had, it could have been a recall, but it might have just been a simple inspection type thing. It wasn't anything real complex. And he asked if she could make an appointment. I said, actually, we have a tech van that can handle this. And he was concerned that our tech van wasn't just some, blank van that was driving up at his 18-year-old daughter's apartment. I said, no, sir, these are high roof vans with all Tallahassee Ford and Ford Motor Company logos all over it. It'll be very obvious when she pulls in. But the safety factor for a parent that sends their kid off to Tallahassee to one of our 3 universities is a big deal. You've got young kids. I've got a young kid, but I'm going to tell you, when he heads off to school, that's going to be something that's real important to me too.
I've lived this because I have a 32-year-old and 27-year-old, and now a 6-year-old and 8-year-old. And I remember, and I talked about it at one point when Michael was in Tampa. And although Michael is an amazing electrician today and runs McKinney Electric, he was a bit aloof when it came to cars.
Sure.
So when I got that 11 o'clock call that my car won't go anywhere, all of a sudden, he's in Tampa.
That's right.
All of a sudden, I was every one of my customers that I got a late night call and didn't know where to go. So we take those things extremely serious, even when the result is not the result that people want.
That's right.
We absolutely take them serious, and we're looking at it as if, hey, if one of my friends called me and asked me to help take care of it, what would be every resource I could do to make sure to put this to bed. So that's something I want to get out there and make sure that people understand that is the view we have, even when the news is not necessarily to fix what you want. That logo that's on the screen, that's somewhat personal to me, because as I talk about getting it from an old Ford tailgate that was made into a bench, it says since 1926. I personally couldn't find any information, I believe, since past the 40s on Tallahassee Ford. And it actually goes back to Tallahassee Motors is when it would be 226. When you see an old weathered logo like that, I talked about a little yesterday with my wife for part of the show was, in less than 100 years, we went from a horse and buggy to landing on the moon and all in between. Well, we that was that portion of it. From my point of view, the 35 years I've been in the industry, we went from a Sharpie and a piece of paper that they wrote down something on it and sent you out there to talk to a customer, to getting extremely compliant and really, measuring, how we do business. Are we sending things out in uniformity? Are we making decisions for people? Or are we giving them the information to make an educated decision, and all in between? Well, when I see that weathered logo, the reality was that came along at a point when I was here, when I was really worried, like, were we going to be able to turn the tide within the public view as a local Ford store, or were we just going to kind of get hammered on forever? And what I meant by that was it was pretty easy for people to jump on there and pick us apart. And that's what was happening. Yeah. I think that's where I had to get you involved with one right here from this group that I had to learn about.
That's right.
And when I went through a variation of thoughts, and one of them was, I told my wife, I said, man, I don't know if I'm going to be able to kind of review the store for what I would like it to be today based off of people, not really wanting to turn loose of the past. And I can't speak for that. And so, we jokingly were like, I don't know, you should call it Seminole Ford. I don't know. Is there a Seminole Ford? I don't know. We started rolling around all these thoughts in our minds, and that's all they were. It wasn't a legit conversation as much as a thought.
Yeah.
And, and I was like, 100 years. And then I've heard stories like that the original owner bought it, not unlike a lot of very early Ford stores, that it was a secondary business to support a primary, which I heard. I don't know if it's true. If anybody does, I'd love to hear more about it. I am a little bit of a history nut, so this won't be self-serving, but I'm certainly interested. My understanding was he bought the Ford franchise in order to supply trucks to a milk business.
Wow.
The original Ford store I worked for, that man bought that franchise in order to supply trucks to a road construction business. So, and I always, 100 years, right? You skip forward to now, we got 132 employees.
Yep.
It's a real deal business.
Oh, yeah.
What I mean? With, I don't know, the countless hundreds of businesses that count on us, do business with us. So when I look at that weathered logo, to me, that was a realization of getting committed to digging through it. And as I had told my wife, I'm not going to be able to apologize our way out of some of the things that I don't know about. We'll have to take some direct hits while we're going through this. But at the end of the day, people will know that we didn't buckle, we didn't run, and we want to be the dealer that's here for our community. So that weathered logo is cool. You'll see it on a lot of the stuff that I wear. It means a lot, or hats. It's monochromatic on here. But if you've got any questions, stop by and ask me about it. I'd love to chat with you about it. And if you have any info on it, I'd love to meet you. So we're going to round out the show and end it and catch up with you guys next time. I'm Bill McKinney.
Dale Brown.
Thanks for hanging out with us on Rev'd Up with Bill McKinney. We'll see y'all next week.
That's today's edition of Rev'd Up with Bill McKinney. Thanks for listening. And remember, when it comes to cars, information matters just as much as the vehicle itself. Rev'd Up with Bill McKinney is presented by Tallahassee Ford. Join us next week for another smarter conversation about the road ahead.